To Dr. Soontaranun, the Sustainability Director of Thai Union Frozen Products, which is the largest exporter of canned tuna around the world, with a workforce of over 35,000 people. And Dr. Witt has, before joining TUF, he was at Bamboo Mining and Energy. And he actually started applying the GRI, or the Global Reporting Initiative, or sustainability reporting at Bamboo, and now he's continuing his sustainability efforts at the biggest canned tuna exporter. So please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Fred, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'm really glad, and I have a very good news of myself to talk to you, because my ex-company Bamboo and Thai Union Frozen, which is my current company, we are awarded Dow Jones Sustainability Index membership for this year for the first time. So Bamboo and Thai Union Frozen are two of the 10 Thai companies as the members of Dow Jones Sustainability Index. And talking about myself a little bit, my background is a chemical engineer, and I taught at university here in German University, the Faculty of Engineering for 10 years, and did the subject of the core chemical engineering subject. And then my life changed. I get into the private sector, started with the Bamboo Public Company Limited, doing the sustainability together with the health, safety, environment, and community development. And then moved to Thai Union Frozen. But my goal wanted to become narrower to only focus on sustainability. And it is very interesting that I would like to share with you that the experience and the learning I got from being with Thai Union Frozen, although it is only 1.5 years, and it is very interesting to see how we're going to manage the sustainability within the very complicated supply chain. And this is why I would like to talk about this topic, creating shared value using the supply chain management. I would like to give a little bit background about Thai Union Frozen. The company has the kind of vertically integrated operation. We have two lines of business. One is fisheries, and the other one is aquaculture. For the fishery, we have the fishing fleet, but not in the Pacific or within this region. We used to operate in Indian Ocean, but then we moved it to Atlantic. So right now the fleet is under one of our subsidiaries called NW Brand in France, and they are one to operate this fishing fleet in Atlantic Ocean. And then we have the farm, we have hatchery for shrimp that we get in the region, not only Thailand, including India and other countries. And then all the material supplied to our factory, which has a number of factories around in Thailand, in Vietnam, and also in Africa, Ghana, Seychelles, in Europe like in France, in Portugal, and also in the United States. So we have lots of operation, and we have marketing arms in each of the region as well. Talking about the product, the major product is definitely tuna, with shrimp coming second on the order of the portfolio, and then the other product like salmon, sardine, mackerel, and the other fish. This one. And talking a little bit about the nature of the company, Thai Union Frozen has originated as OEM. So we only produce the product for the branded company, the private level. But right now, as we acquire a bigger company like MBB brand, Chicken of the Sea, then we start entering into having our own brand. Where you can see that we have an international brand, including the domestic brand like Fisheries and Select. And if you are the pet lover and you have cats, so don't forget Bellotta. It is another premium brand when we talk a little bit about sustainability, I want to try to lay down what is the foundation for our corporate social responsibility. And it all started with the philosophy, which is a reflection of the belief of the senior management from the start, that they want to leverage the strength of the company in terms of business in order to contribute to the society and environment with the mindset of working together with the stakeholders. So, regardless of who they are, we now working with NGO who attack us on the issue like human rights, issue like the environmental protection. So that right now we are trying to work with everyone, get them to understand, and at the same time to get ourselves, the people in the company, to understand the perspective of the people outside the company as well. So try to bring the new thinking into the companies and at the same time explain what we are. And also last year we just entered into the membership of the UN Global Compact, and this is the second year that we are the member of the Global Compact. And talking about the policy, I just want to highlight the last one, that we are committed to creating shared value, and that is, we'll talk later about the shared value. But what we want to be is that we want to be a leadership in CSR that adheres to wisdom and empowerment. So that means we don't just give away, but we think about the CSR program that will enhance the capability of the stakeholder rather than just give away things. So that means we are focusing on wisdom and empowerment of people. And this is our picture of shared value. We think about the thing that is related to our current business. Think about not about only the business perspective, but what we are now, what is the capability within our current business setup. So we're starting with things that is relevant to us, and then look into further to the target audience or target stakeholder to see what is the real sustainability issue or the social needs within that target stakeholder group. Then we try to find where we have a common together. And not only that, this is the thing that we overlay our presence. But now we have to bring it up to the future. So we look into the future, that what kind of opportunity that we can create together with the ground of what we have currently to be and what the current community needs for that, and we try to bring it up to see what kind of opportunity for growing together into the future. So this is our definition of shared value. And how about supply chain management? As I told you before, that we have kind of vertically integrated supply chain. So we start with the resource holder. It can be because we are basically in the marine resource. So we start with the resource holder, and then go to the supplier, distributors, and us major as processors, trader, and then retailer. Typically, I don't want to talk one way, but I want to exchange and give you a room to discuss right now. That if we talk about the supply chain management, so what do you think about that? What kind of benefit of doing supply chain management? Let me start from Alex, because Alex is the most senior people here.
Yeah, that's why I have a questioning look on my face.
So when we talk about supply chain management, what kind of benefit do you think about?
Well, I think in most people's case, most people look at it as a way to try to benefit from cost savings. Somehow, you know, getting products to market without too much.
Managing costs. Any adjustment?
Steady supply.
So securing the supply. Yeah. Okay. Access to raw materials, right? Then cost management, assuring the quality. Yes. Anything else?
Reducing waste.
Reducing waste.
I guess it's
Yeah. The productivity management. So we minimizing waste, try to increase the efficiency. Anything else?
for me, speaking from a corporate person standpoint, I want to externalize my risk. I don't want to take on any risk. I want my suppliers to hold all the inventory. I want them to hold all the risks and supply chain.
So it's a mix of the cost management and
Any sort of culpability.
yeah,
Risk management.
risk management. Yes, avoidance of the reputational risk and the other one as well. But this is the thing that is commonly come up when we talk about how we can do what we want to achieve from doing supply chain management. And what I have to say that it is still based in the mindset of problem and solution. You think about the problem of risk, problem about cost, problem about the quality. Then we try to use the supply chain management as a tool in order to give us a solution. That is the typical way. Let's see, this is an example. We have one of the products that sells in Thailand, the sardine, Filet sardine, and it's produced from our factory. And then we buy from the middlemen who buy from the fishers. You might ask why Thai Union has to buy from the middlemen, not buy direct from the fishing vessels. It's because of the typical fishing operation and the catch in this region. Because the way we do fishing is that we will get a multi-species of the fishes. So that means per catch, per vessel, the company cannot use all of them. You have to select buying some of them. So the role of middlemen play a very important role in this kind of supply chain, in this region, in the region. Okay. So this is why we have kind of the chain like this. And then what's the problem in this kind of supply chain? It is very well known that in the Gulf of Thailand, there's a kind of dramatic decrease of the resource, the richness of the resource in the Gulf has reduced quite dramatically along about 4 decades. You can see that this is catch per unit effort. That means they will measure that if you harvest the ocean or the sea for 1 hour, how many kilo of the fish that you can get. And it has reduced from around 300 kilo per hour down to around 10 to 20. So you can see that how bad the situation is about the fisheries in the Gulf. So because of this, it drives people crazy. So the fishermen, instead of doing a better job in fishing, they try to scoop more and more in order to get a bigger volume. But as they get to the bigger volume, they get a smaller fish, low value fish. So it even drives things even worse. So they harvest more and then get into the cycle of losing. Everyone loses. So, and the other thing is that they get closer to the shoreline. Because nearing to the shore, there's a habitat for the juveniles and the spawning ground for the big fish. So as they cannot find anything in the high sea, so they tend to come closer to the shore to try to find more of the fish. So this is what's happening. And you can see this is not only the situation in Thailand, and it happens to the whole Southeast Asia and South Asia region, that all the fishing vessels go close to underground and go where there's still some fish left. And you know what happened is that if they come closer to the shore, and the shore is the place where the spawning ground and the habitat for the fish, then they would tend to destroy the habitat as well as getting the fish. So that would even make things worse. And what is the root cause of that problem? What's the root cause of that problem? One of that is illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. If you talk to the Department of Fisheries Thailand, they will say that, the registered vessels in the Gulf is around 3,000 boats only. But in fact, people know well that in the Gulf, there may be around 40,000 to 60,000 vessels. They are port vessels, not registered. So they're not in the radar of the government, but they're doing fishing on the ground. So we just talked yesterday in one meeting with the Fisheries Association. So what can we do? What can the processor help you in order to make a situation improve in terms of being registered? So they said it's up to the Department of Fisheries to open the door for everyone to be on the table. Because first you have to bring everyone into life first to see who are who, and then you start to manage them. You have to reduce the number of boats, so the government should have the measures to try to reduce the population, not just let people go underground and then cannot manage. So the problem is about vessel registration, and then if they can get all the people to register and be on the ground, then better. And then later for the permit and license. Then the other thing is about the catch monitoring and data reporting and the traceability. So this is the thing that is the problem. That's the problem. Solution, as I told you there, so law enforcement is a key, but it's not the only key, right? Because the other part is equally important to the market pressure. One of the reasons why the seafood exporter and seafood processor has to stand up and speak about the problem is because the market pressure from Europe, from the United States, from Australia. So this kind of pressure can help also. But the question is that who knows how many percent of the fish from the Gulf of Thailand goes for the export market and how much goes for the domestic consumption. Any guess?
Most of it is exported, more than half.
No. Majority goes for domestic consumption. So I have never observed any awareness of consumer, not only until recently when people talk a little bit about Bangkok, right, in the hypermarket, that how we are fish should we have that in the shelf. But rarely people ask about sustainability of fish, of the thing that we eat. So this is a kind of another thing that what we need to think about. But as you talk about the situation today, that if we're going to rely on the law enforcement, or we're going to rely on the market pressure to build up in Thailand, it's a kind of dead end. We see no immediate future for that. Because it won't happen today, it won't happen tomorrow. It will happen some years in the future. So the success rate for today is very low. So this is not a kind of the true solution for the Gulf now. Then we tend to turn things around and think if we can find opportunity or find value out of this problem. Rather than think of the supply chain and where we are as a problem, then we try to see from the different angle and see how we can create opportunity out of this seems to be bad supply chain. Okay, so we try to think whether we can create a new market opportunity from this, from the fish from the Gulf. Can we find any sustainable supply of the fish from the Gulf of Thailand? And can we at the same time address the social needs of the coastal communities? And even looking for the drivers of sustainable development of Thailand and the Gulf. So when we start thinking that, when we look at our current supply chain, we find no way of thinking beyond. So we have to think beyond what we are now, what we are in now. So what we do is that this is with the way we think beyond. So this is us as a food processor. We buy from the fishermen and then come from the commercial fishery. So once you look further, so we have another group of fishery, small-scale fishery, who share the same resource as commercial fishing. And they are the one also to supply to the domestic market. And on the other side, this is for fish for human consumption. They are another part of portion of fish go for the animal feed producer as they call trash fish, but I don't know how to use the word trash fish. It's kind of the low value fish that will go to animal feed producer and then go feeding the shrimp, feeding the farm fish, and then it will come back to us again as the raw material to the processor and start to go to the domestic consumption. So this is a bigger picture of supply chain. Then we start to look into this, whether is there any opportunity that the mainstream supply chain like this, the player in this can do with this in order to make a solution instead of going direct to commercial fishery like I previously mentioned. Is there any opportunity to work with the small scale fishing and creating the shared value and then find a solution for the Gulf of Thailand? So we start back to the basics, thinking that if the small scale fishery, they mostly fish in the water just in front of their home. And mostly they fish in the area we call the closer to the shore. So basically, under the law, under the regulation of the Department of Fisheries, the area of 3 nautical miles from the shore is protected, and the trawler is not allowed to conduct the fishing in this area. But because of lots of problems about the governance problem, about the capacity of the community itself to protect their own environment, so there's a lot of problems that trawlers come and steal the resource from the small scale fishery. That's one thing. So how? So we try to think, we put the hat of the community on instead of looking at the processor. So forget about being a processor. So think, if we are the small scale fishery who live in the coastal as a coastal community, so what we will think of ourselves, then we start to talk to them. So what kind of sustainability they are looking for. But then we start to have three rings about sustainable livelihood. First they talk about the well-being, the economic status of the community. And as we know, the fishers, local fishers, they're not rich, even poorer than the standard. So what happened? So we try to look at that. What happened? Is that the way of life? Is that because of the resources that they don't have enough resource, then they cannot earn enough the living. But actually it's not true. The resource that they have in some place very rich. And the way of life, not a problem. But still, a lot of problems in terms of income. So this is our homework. So we start thinking, okay, this is another problem for the local fishery. So how we can address this problem together with the resource problem, supply chain problem, I'm going to find a solution. So this is a big homework. Then we think about this model. If we try to improve the economic status of the community, the coastal community, what we should do is that we have to sustain the capital inflow into the community through the supply chain. And we look at the supply chain. Right now, the local fishers, they also sell to the middleman. And the middleman is the one who takes all the benefits, mostly. So how can we promote a newer supply chain where the local fishers can gain an access to the market, right? But if we talk about conventional market, if you don't have a kind of distinguished or differentiated your product, you cannot sell for higher value. So we need to identify the product that is truly sustainable, right? So that we link back to the resource that they have. So we need to find out what kind of fish, what kind of marine species within the area where they do fishing is truly sustainable. Okay. And if we can find that, then we can determine who to buy that. I think most of us who are sitting in this room can afford paying a little more for better quality and better sustainable products. Right? If you go to a restaurant and you order a salmon, which costs around 200 baht, then if they offer you another plate, which can confirm to you that the salmon is fished responsibly, is farmed responsibly, and it costs around 10 baht more, would you pay for it? Pay for that? I think most of us would do, because it is affordable for us. So this kind of thinking is that if we can identify the local product, this is truly sustainable. We can find out the market who will pay for the premium, and the premium will go back to the community. But the concept is that we don't only want to improve the quality of life through the earning, that very quick earning as a premium, but we want to see whether is there any effort to do a conservation. Because without the conservation effort, then the thing that we see as a sustainable product right now, it might not be sustainable in the future. So we need to see equally the balance between marketing and conservation. So the model is that we will bring a sustained capital inflow through the new market access, and then the premium will go to the strengthening the conservation effort through the kind of village fund, conservation fund that will be managed by the local officials. And then that will have the impact on the strengthening and enrich the resource. And that will help them to have a more sustainable product, and then it will turn things around, turn the picture around to be more and more sustainable. And that will improve the quality of life as well. It's not that 100% of the people who go to the conservation effort, some who go to improve the quality of life in the community. This is for the local community. And what about for the private partner? If Thai Union goes in, what we get is that we can have a new market opportunity. And we have a wider, we have a wider stakeholder engagement opportunity. So we can now engage to a wider people, not only commercial fishing, but we now know small scale fishers who share the same resource. So they should be our partners. And then if we can connect them to our mainstream production, then we can ensure the steady supply of our raw material. So that's kind of the benefit that the private partner will get from this kind of partnership model. Where? So we just started about 2 years ago, right, with this community, particularly in Chumphon, in Bangkok. This Bangkok community has a very unique characteristic where they fish the king mackerel, or in Thai by sea. The king mackerel is a very unique species. They don't eat they have to be fished using pole and line. So to get the bait, using pole and line, and you have to use a live bait fish. You cannot use any dead fish for baiting because this is a clever fish, so they only eat just live. So this already has this pole and line fishing, and with pole and line fishing, as we all know, as the international people from abroad know that this is the technique known as the most sustainable way of fishing because it's very selective. In comparison to trawler or the seiner, where you scoop everything together at once, then you've got a bycatch like other species, not non-targeted species. And it can involve like tuna. We talk about the supply of tuna. We are very concerned about the bycatch like shark, turtle, dolphin, those kind of very sensitive endangered species. So but with this kind of fishing method, it's the most sustainable way right now at present. So we're talking about how we're going to promote this product to the market. And we now start talking to our customers because we don't operate the supply chain until the retailer, restaurant chain, food service. We don't have those kind of things. But we start talking, having a dialogue with our customers who are the food service, who are the retailer, whether they are interested in getting this kind of product into the market with a premium, of course. And the other thing is that people start asking back the question, how are you going to make sure that once this king mackerel in this region goes to the market and it kind of hit, and then the volume going up, the sale volume goes up, how are you going to ensure that this fish is still sustainable? So now we kind of talking to our partner to see whether how we're going to kind of doing a scientific study of the situation right now of this fish, and then continue to monitor to see the status, whether we can make them worse or improve the biomass of the fish. So this is kind of another thing that we have to do in parallel to ensure that this fish is still sustainable. Then people start asking, you have to use bait fish, and bait fish is smaller fish. How can we guarantee the sustainability of the bait fish? Again, so we talk back to the community that how will they guarantee that the bait fish is sustainable? So they demonstrate to us that the project, the conservation project that they are doing, they have been doing for years, is relation to the habitat restoration. They build a artificial coral reef in the area, in this area. They have building a lot of artificial reef, but as a temporary, because with the very kind of no capital investment in that, so they use a natural thing like the coconut tree, just dump it into the shore to have a kind of temporary shelter for the smaller fish. So they need kind of a bigger investment to be a kind of permanent structure for that. But they have that kind of project, and it has proven that all the best fish coming around and stay in this region and breeding, spawning in this area, so they can guarantee that the population of the best fish will still be there. All right, so this kind of concept is being implemented, and what I share with you, we haven't gone into the stage where we can realize yet the result of integrating the local fishery product into our supply chain. But one thing that we can see is that once we start working with the community without putting our own agenda, our own business agenda into the community, we start with focusing on what they need and having them to think more and more about themselves, about their future. What happens is right now, even though we haven't yet market the local product, but they have started their own initiative in creating the local market and trying to find the market opportunity elsewhere around the area, not to rely only on the company. So that is a good point that we see that's very positive for us, that we don't leave our footprint in the community with this kind of project, but rather having them to start thinking and doing by themselves rather than rely on the company. So back to this. So what is the main takeaway that I would like to share with you? The key takeaway is that definitely when we talk about how to create shared value for the supply chain, we have to start with the supply chain. So we start thinking start with the supply chain first, and then think beyond when looking for the opportunity. And once you find out the opportunity, then you engage that back to the supply chain. Then I think you have a question in your mind, your face right now. How is it going to give a solution for the Gulf as a whole, right? For the entire Gulf situation. The thing is that if you look back into this, okay, once we have a very strong community who can protect and looking after their own area like this, this will be a better spawning ground. It's a more effective spawning ground to reproduce the fish into the Gulf. Okay. So we start with Soontaranun. We started with this local area. The plan is that we're going to extend this along the Gulf. We call this a bigger project called Marine Protected Area Corridor. Right now, IUCN has a kind of MPA sites around the Gulf, but it is not connected. They are just here and there in Gulf Town area, in Gulf Suez area, but they're not connected. So our plan is that if we can start this kind of thing, this kind of framework, and it has proved successful, then we can start it to be throughout the shoreline of the Gulf of Thailand. And if that day that we can create the whole shoreline connection for the marine protected area, then we can look forward to the richer and richer the fisheries of in the Gulf.
How is Thai Union Foods involved in the protected area?
We call ourselves as a facilitator. we kind of supporting the dialoguing process. Because what we believe is that we're not the expert of everything. But we have to leave that to the people who live there, their life depends on the things there, and having them to think, and having them to start to partner with the related party, even with the government agencies, local authorities. So we have to lead it with the people. So Thai Union see ourselves as a facilitator in this kind of model setup.
What is your share of the total tuna catch, for example? I mean, how much does your company take of the total? I mean, how many other players are there in?
About 1/5 of the catch each year globally.
No, for this area.
Tuna is not
Not here.
there is no
But
tuna.
for this, no, what?
So mainly the product that we take from the Gulf is sardines and mackerel, squid,
But what proportion of that does your company?
not much.
Not
I was asked also by our president, why you want to focus on this? It is not important in terms of commercial sense.
Yep.
Because this is very small portion of the revenue derived from the resource in the Gulf Island. And one thing that I defend is that if you don't start on the home ground, if you don't start small, how can you prove that you become successful in a bigger picture? If you're going to jump into tuna sustainability and trying to save the world, save the global ocean, without any successful story, you have no credibility.
As you just stated, you have 1/5 of the world's total of the catch of tuna. And I've seen your commercials on the BTS about how Thai Union Food has #1 or 2 brands of almost every worldwide market in tuna. On the other hand, you have tuna depletion stock in the world. You're talking about potentially 10, 20 years. So you didn't really touch upon it in the presentation. I'm very curious to know, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room are very curious to know. It's great that you're in the Dallas Sustainable Index, all of these things. And stock performance is up and down, but relatively, on the high end these days. How does Thai Union Food even sustain a business in 10 years, much less talk about sustainability of tuna stock in the world?
Okay, great. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
And we have to think about, when we talk about tuna, there are several species of tuna.
Okay, let's talk about albacore tuna. Yeah.
So albacore is very small proportion of our production. So mainly around 80% of our product is based on skipjack, which is still abundant by now. So what we want to do is that we want to make sure that there will be, for another century, skipjack is still be there. Right? So the mission, this is another mission, not this mission. Another mission is that to work with the international organization to try to find a measure to cooperate with the IFMO, which is the Fisheries Management Organization, to come up with a better management of the fishing in the ocean. So that is another story. But again, it will come back to this. As I told John, that when we can prove that the successful of the conservation comes not only from the government initiative, like if you rely on the IFMO, again, you talk about enforcement, and then you can go to get it again when IFMO says they have no capability, they have no resource to really protect the ocean. It has to come back to who are with the resource. So it has to be local community, or even given the country, the state who own their EEZ ground. So we have to go back to those people, and then I think this model can be replicated into that kind of global platform.
Does the government show any interest in trying to coordinate or get a better grasp of the total fishery in the
I think this is always in their mind, but the main reason that they always mention is about the lack of resource, lack of investment, lack of blah blah blah. So if you talk to the government or authority, they will surely want to see the improvement of the situation.
Last question.
I see one of the key challenges that you're facing is to convince all those small fishermen to involve the project, particularly if you want to expand to the craft. How do you do that?
We didn't do that because we have to partner with the person who really is the expert in doing the community dialogue. Because this is all about bringing people together. It's not our expertise. So we partner with the Right Livelihood Foundation. They have key layman on the ground who can do a kind of bringing people to talk and to discuss about the future, and then this kind of work belongs to our partners. Similarly, when we talk about scientific study, we have to rely on other partners, not ourselves. So that's why Thailand is a facilitator in this process. But what's more important is that the thinking, right? The thinking about the frame, the whole process of doing the improvement.
Thank you very much, Madam.